Jiri Prochazka is the most violent, unhinged, unpredictable, cool-looking fighter we have ever seen in the UFC. He is chaos incarnate, a medieval boss fight in human form. Top knot flapping, elbow swinging, no regard for self-preservation. He's the toughest, bravest, most legendary animal of a fighter we've ever witnessed, and somehow still humble, respectful, and incredibly cooked. No one fights like Jiri Procházka. No one lives like Jiri Procházka. And that is why he's my favourite fighter on the planet. Let's break it down. Let's talk about UFC 320, Jiri versus Khalil Rountree Jr. The first two rounds, rough. Jiri honestly looked like shit. Khalil was tight, clean, precise, sticking that Thai-style jab cross combo, landing heavy counters every time Jiri tried something weird. You could tell Jiri was taking damage, but he wasn't worried. He was downloading the data. A true warrior does not react. He observes, he absorbs the storm, and becomes it. Then round 3 hits, and Jiri awakens. Suddenly, he's marching forward, landing teeps to the gut, whipping in elbows, stinging body shots, waiting for the perfect uppercut, clinching, framing, elbow, spinning elbow, boom! He starts pouring it on Khalil. The combinations coming from all angles, the distance manipulation, the violent chaos, then that 3-piece doom combo that absolutely folds Khalil. It was brutal. It was beautiful. It was pure chaos and violence that only Jiri Procházka can bring. So here's the reasons why Jiri might be my favourite UFC fighter of all time. Reason 1, he's got the most cooked, violent, fun and exciting fighting style of all time. Hands down. He's got his chin out, he's throwing Wing Chun combinations, no safe mode, just pure instinct, chaos, and calculated violence. He knocked out Volkan Oezdemir with a clean 1-2. Bisping went wild. Baby boy! That Dominic Reyes war, and it was an absolute festival of violence. Elbows, spinning elbows, more elbows, face plant KO. Reyes literally flatlined, covered in blood. Then we had the 5-round war with Glover Teixeira, one of the greatest title fights of all time. Back and forth carnage, and just when it looked like Jiri was done and going to lose on the scorecards, boom, rear naked choke in round 5. Bro snatched the belt from the jaws of hell. Against Rakic, same deal. Took damage early, didn't care, just walked through the fire and murdered him with cold precision. Then comes the Jamal Hill beating, and now the Khalil KO. Both nasty, nasty finishes. Yes, he lost twice to Pereira, but those are outliers. It takes a mythical force like Alex, a Shama god, to stop Jiri before he cockroach crawls back and finishes you by TKO in the late rounds. Jiri's fights are never boring. They are the most entertaining fights in the UFC. I'm always looking forward to a Jiri Procházka fight, and those fights just do something to me that no other fighter does. We need more fighters like Jiri in the UFC. Reason 2, his warrior code, samurai philosophy, and his cooked training routines. Jiri doesn't just fight like a warrior, he lives like one. He follows the Bushido code, he reads the Book of 5 Rings, he talks about no mind. No mind is Jiri Procházka's intense mental training practices that he does to achieve a calm, focused state in the heat of battle, including meditation, sensory deprivation, and extreme physical challenges. This disciplined mindset is central to his aggressive and unpredictable fighting style, known as the Czech samurai style, allowing him to perform at his peak in high-pressure situations. And we saw that against Khalil. Down 2 rounds, no problem for Jiri, just takes a deep breath, goes into his Bushido style, enters his flow state, and gets Khalil out of there. This guy, Jiri, he's out there punching trees, crawling through the forest like an animal, training barefoot in rivers. He literally swam under a frozen lake to face death. He meditates in dark rooms. Bro lives his life like a Skyrim NPC. He believes in becoming the chaos, not pretending, not letting it come to him. He owns the chaos and he becomes the chaos. When he enters his cooked fugue state samurai flow, you know it is all over for his opponent. We saw this best against Rakic and now Rountree. Once Jiri gets rolling, there is nothing you can do unless you shut his lights out. He's like a zombie. You have to headshot him or he'll just keep walking toward you with evil intent. I can't imagine how scared his opponents must feel in round 3 when they've given their all and Jiri's still there, cockroach maxing toward them. Fuck fighting that. Reason 3. He's actually a chill, respectful, legitimately cool guy. For all the madness and the violence and the pain that he inflicts in the octagon, Jiri is cool as hell. He never trash talks his opponents, just nods, bows, and just hits you with a, let's go for that. You saw him cheering Pereira when Pereira KO'd Ankalaev and like crying and getting emotional and proud. That's a class act from Jiri. The guy just finished a master's degree. Yep, a fully legit master's degree in security and strategic studies. And he says that he studies to keep his mind sharp for when he stops fighting. So the guy's basically preempting the CTE that he's probably going to get and trying to avoid it. What a Chad. He doesn't take shortcuts. He doesn't make excuses. He is a total martial artist. This guy walks into press conferences like a stoic Viking, gives thoughtful answers, and then casually drops wild lines like, I took 2 fucking crazy guys from my village to here to see this crazy event. And today I will bring them to my hotel room and they will see something. Let's go for that. So he's a weird dude, but he's actually a chill, respectful, good guy, and he's good to listen to as well as good to watch. Reason 4, he's hilarious without trying, and he's just got that GOAT personality. Jiri is one of the funniest fighters in the UFC, not because he tries to be, just because he's so deeply, spiritually cooked. He's got a couple of funny nicknames. His nickname, one of them is Denisa, which is like a Czech chick's name. Apparently one day in the gym, someone called out to this girl and Jiri turned around and went, yes. And that just stuck and they started calling him Denisa. He had that name for a long time. His other nickname is BJP, which apparently in Czech, they like shouted at him and it means bomb the shit out of them, like as in knock their fucking heads off, which is fitting because he does that every time in his fights. Can you imagine just having a few beers with Jiri at the pub with the boys on the weekend? It'd be insane. I reckon he'd be a bro as well. He'd be a good wingman. He'd be out with the boys on the town. Jiri would be walking alongside wearing his kimono. You're out there trying to get with some chick and like a big friend's blocking you. And you're like to Jiri, bro, I need some help. Can you distract this big unit for me so I can tune up this baddie? And I can just imagine Jiri sizing her up going, yes, she is strong, sturdy, wide hips, built for war. Tonight, she will be mine. And you'd be like, you sure, bro? I just need you to distract her. You don't have to take her home. And Jiri would just be like, I will make, how you say, sexy time with this creature. This will be a battle I did not expect, but I was born to face. I am coming. Nah, but come on, tell me Jiri wouldn't be like awesome fun to hang out with. I just feel like he's such a solid dude all around, and he'd be a loyal friend to you as well. He'd do anything for you, Jiri. Respect to him. So, these are the reasons why I love Jiri so much, and you got to agree, I reckon. What's next for Jiri Prochazka? With that win over Khalil Rountree, he's right back in the title mix, and there's some pretty insane, exciting options for him at light heavyweight now. The one I mentioned in my previous video was Jiri versus Ankalaev. Jiri Prochazka versus Magomed Ankalaev. Both of these guys are going to need a bit of a time off and a rest after their last fights, and their schedules should line up pretty well. It would be an interesting fight. You've got like a style matchup of a technician versus just a chaos warlord. We've got a fair clash of styles here, a clash of kind of philosophies as well. Like they're from different parts of the world with very different sort of beliefs as well. Maybe they won't do this fight because they probably want Jiri in big name fights. But I do think this is a winnable fight for Jiri against the top ranked guy at light heavyweight outside of Powhatan. it's a big opportunity for Jiri to really stamp himself as that number one contender. I think if he beats Ankalaev, he's undeniable for a title shot. Even if Alex is still the champ, you'd have to give it to Jiri after the run that he's on. But I don't know if they're going to do that one. The other big option, which I think is the one that they are going to do, is Jiri versus Carlos Ulberg. And this would be a beautifully violent fight as well, I reckon. I think the UFC could do this for a vacant or an interim belt if Alex decides to go up to heavyweight and fight Tom, or do something on the White House, maybe against John Jones. Jiri versus Carlos Ulberg. It'd be a great striking matchup with two guys with extremely heavy hands, but very different styles. You've got the technical, clean striking of Ulberg contrasted with the crazy, chaotic style of Jiri. I reckon it'd be a great fight, and I could honestly see Jiri out-dogging Ulberg in this one. But I have been wrong about Carlos Ulberg before. I think this should probably be the next fight for these two guys, and it might even just be for the belt, the vacant belt, if Alex decides to move up. I think Alex won't be too keen to cling on to that belt. He's done his work at light heavyweight. I reckon he won't mind vacating it and letting those other boys sort it out, maybe while he does some other stuff and then comes back for a Jiri trilogy fight later in the piece. But I don't know how much longer we've got Pereira for, so we're just going to enjoy it while we got it. And if we got him going up, then Ulberg versus Jiri is the legitimate number one contender fight, and that would be a sick fight. Another option for Jiri, which I could see happening at some point, maybe not next, but down the track, Jiri versus Pereira 3. Please, just one more time. Just give Jiri his chance at redemption. You know this fight's going to be fireworks. Why not just let it happen? I don't care if it's 2-0, Alex. It's one of the most legendary fights you can make right now. And to be honest, I wasn't totally satisfied with how the other two fights went. I actually reckon Jiri can still beat Alex. It is, of course, his hardest matchup. But tell me you wouldn't be still just frothing if the UFC announced this third one. I don't care where or when. I reckon we should just keep running this one back every 6 months until they retire, because you're going to get a great performance from both guys. So I'm still holding on hope for the fact that, for the idea that one day we will get Jiri versus Pereira 3. I'd like to see Jiri win that, but never know. The only other time we've sort of seen this, like a trilogy happen, or like after one guy's won a couple of them, it was with Volk and Max, and that one ended up 3-0 Volk, and then with the Figgy and Moreno saga as well. So it's not a common thing to do, but I can see the UFC just putting their bias to the side and going, who wouldn't buy this Jiri versus Alex fight? So I'd like to see that one more time as well. The other option is Jiri versus Jan Blachowicz. You got the Czech Samurai versus the legendary Polish Power. You could do this as a headliner of a fight night in Europe. Guro's been talking about this one for a long time, selling out a European stadium and putting Jan versus Jiri. But it is a matchup we've wanted to see for a long time, but I don't think it's going to work out just with timing. I think Jiri's too high above Blachowicz now, and they don't want Jiri to lose his hype to an aging Blachowicz if Blachowicz were to beat him, which he could. So I don't reckon we ever see this one, but it would be a good fight to see. I reckon the option's probably going to be Jiri versus Ulberg, and I am down for that fight for sure. Whatever's next, it's Jiri Prochazka. We're going to turn up. We're going to watch his fights. We're locked in. Yeah, we're going to watch this guy every single time. I don't care if he's fighting Hasbulla in street beefs. I'm going to be buying that pay-per-view. So, yeah, boys, that's pretty much why Jiri Prochazka is my favourite fighter. There's a lot of other reasons too, but the main ones are just that he's violence incarnate. He's peace, he's chaos, he's calm, he's everything. He's a philosopher, warrior, savage hybrid who fucking throws spinning elbows and quotes ancient biblical texts and writes in scrolls in his temple in the forest. He's a crazy dude. Win or lose, Jiri's a fucking legend. He'll go down as a Hall of Famer, one of the best fighters of all time, just for his fighting style alone and the excitement. Pound for pound, probably the most exciting fighter in the UFC of all time. And the UFC is a much better place with Jiri in it. So drop your favourite Jiri Prochazka moment below. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. I reckon one day we're going to look back on this man's career in wonder and we'll say, it wasn't perfect, but it was a storm. Let's go for that.